Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone with my friend Jay Weidner. Hey, Jay, how you doing?
Good. How are you?
Good. So, Jay, if people don't know you, I'm going to do a little bit of an explanation, but you please help me because you have a very unique set of skills that you bring to almost any project or any creation. And that is you're an author, a filmmaker, a alchemist, a farmer, a gardener builder or a greenhouse builder. So you do construction.
Master Chef.
Mr. Chef. Oh yeah. So and you have this amazing YouTube channel that I watch instead of TV. I like look for the next thing that you have, the next episode on YouTube. So I'm not watching Netflix. I'm watching you and a couple other ones. So YouTube is my new TV.
Same here.
So yeah, it's better. What tell us what so you're like a futurist. You read the pulse of what's going on and then you go into the future. And I remember being at several parties at your house when you lived in the hood. And one time you were talking about Trump winning and everyone was just upset with you. You caused a little bit of commotion and you don't mind the commotion. That's the thing that's amazing. But
I remember that. In fact, I lost a friend. I lost a friend at that party.
Oh, I bet. Well,
Yeah.
and then I remember being at parties when people called you names I won't say from because you were producing Gaia TV and people were, you had to babysit some of the stars that you made. And I was like, what? This sounds like high school, man. What's going on? So you have this opportunity to see the future, create things in the future, just like creating stars at Gaia TV, and also to see the reality of things. Whereas most people are caught either in their programming story or they're in so much fear they can't process anything. So, but you seem to hit the nail on the head and look and are able to find the truth. How do you do that?
Well, I think it was really started. I had two kind of near death, not experiences, but I almost died before I was 12 years old twice.
Oh.
And the second time I was given last rites by the Catholic priest, and I was the only one that I was an altar boy, so I could understand Latin. And so I'm being wheeled down the hallway in the hospital, and the priest is, speaking in Latin and putting holy water on me, and all the people, my parents and my family, are all crying, and because I had this accident, and I was the only one that understood what the priest was saying, and I was like, "Hey, wait a minute! But what are you saying? What? I'm about to die, right? For this soul who is about to die, please, take him with you." And I was like, "Holy crap! This is serious stuff," And then I woke up from the operation, and I didn't really know what was going on. I was 12 years old. I had this big, huge tube coming out of my nose and everything. And I'll never forget it. I was really depressed and all alone in this hospital room. And the nurse came by and asked me if I needed anything. And I said, "Yeah, can you turn on the TV?" And so she turns on the TV, old black and white TV. There are 3 channels in those days. And within about 10 minutes, a film started. and it was called The Incredible Shrinking Man. And it was
Oh,
a science fiction film about a guy who is out on his fishing boat, and a mysterious fog envelops him one day. And a little while after that, he begins shrinking in size. And, pretty soon he's living in the dollhouse, right? And the cat's trying to kill him. Then he gets flushed down the stairs into the into the basement, where now he's really small. He's like this big, and a giant spider tries to kill him, and he kills the spider. And at the very end of the movie, he's small enough to crawl through the openings in the screen of the door, and he's continuing to shrink. And he looks up at the sky, and he can see all the stars in the sky. And he's outside of the basement finally, as he crawled through a little hole in the screen. He says, I've came to realize in that moment that even though I'm infinitesimal, I'm still one with the infinite. And
wow.
in my drugged out state in the hospital, this film had this like incredibly profound influence on me. I've seen it recently. It still holds up pretty well, actually, considering the effects and everything were 1950s. But I think that I got a sort of a fatalistic view of life at that point. And so I started taking chances. And my dad, right before he died, we were talking on the phone, and he said, I'm 93 years old, and I've never known anyone who's taken as many chances in their life as you have. You've taken more risks than anyone. I never really thought about it. Then I started thinking back about all the crazy risks I took. And then I realized that each risk that I took led me into new areas of perception. And then I remember Terence McKenna once said to me that nature loves courage, and she removes boundaries for the courageous. And I
Perfect.
thought, yeah, that's actually very true. And that nature sort of recognizes who's the one that's really sticking out and helps them, kind of, in a weird way. So
So
that's kind of my story. I've never told that story before, by the way.
thank you. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. What do you do then when you go through the fear? How do you, because that's, I mean, every time I've pushed through fear like that, um, done something out of comfort zone or out of program or out of personality, it's always worked out great. But
Yep.
there's a lot of fear. What do you do to get out of that, out of fear?
Well, the thing about fear is it's real. So, you can't say, oh, I don't have any fear. Of course, I have lots of fears all the time. And, but it's weird. I get an adrenaline rush from it.
Yeah.
So I kind of like it. I remember one time we were filming a really dangerous scene in a movie, and I was maybe 25 at the time, and I was directing. And the cameraman said, I said, I want you to get a close up of this truck tire. It was moved. We're doing about 60 miles an hour, and I wanted him to get the camera really close to the truck tire so we could get the really dramatic movement of the truck. And he said, I'm not doing that. That's crazy, man. I'm not going to sit on this thing going 60 miles an hour and try to do that. And I said, yeah, I totally understand. I wouldn't do it either. But then I did it. So I made him get off the cart, and then I took over the camera. And it was only later I realized how really, really dangerous that
Yeah.
was. And I probably would never do it again. But I got the shot, and that was all that really counted. So, there's just certain people that like it, and I'm one of them, and the military looks for them, looks for people like me. They do tests, and they look for the guy that's crazy enough to be the first guy out of the hole, looking for the enemy and whatever. Also, there's perception. I don't know how else to say it, but I'm frequently the first person in a group that'll see something coming at us.
Yes, that's why I wanted to bring that up, is that I think the people watching your your perceptions and you're not rigid with them, where you're not professorial, like, class, this is how it is. You go, hey, I got this and this, how do you see that building? This is how I see it. And so you really take people with you as you're deducing what's to
Yeah,
come.
I have the weird ability to take complex issues and simplify them and make them easy to understand. Don't know where I got that from. It's some strange articulation that I've been gifted with. My wife says that what's the Irish word for bullshit? What's it called? Um,
I don't know.
I can't remember, but she says I have it, right?
Oh,
It's not BSing, it's the ability to accentuate a story. The Irish have a gift for that, and I am Irish. And it's well known, and gift of gab is what it is.
yeah.
Um, and um, and so I remember when I was really young, I had a very bad speech impediment, and I was even taken to classes in school to get rid of my speech impediment. And I remember at one point making up my mind that I was not only going to not have a speech impediment, but that I was actually going to be an outstanding speaker. And I remember consciously, very young, maybe 13, 14 years old, making the conscious decision that I was going to learn how to pronounce words correctly. I was going to learn how to use the syntax correctly. And I was going to learn how to put sentences in chronological order so that people could understand what I was doing. And my family was all lawyers. So my sister was a lawyer, my grandfather was a lawyer, my great grandfather was a lawyer, my nephew is a lawyer. And I think that it has something to do with some kind of inherent ability, because lawyers have that ability, to articulate an issue.
Well,
And it coming very valuable to me too. Believe me, there's been some tight situations where my ability to talk got me out of it. Right. I remember one time I was almost arrested in Mexico. I was down there doing a shoot years ago, and it was totally illegal. Everything we were doing was illegal. I mean, everything we were doing was illegal. And the cops came over and saw that what we were doing, and we were working with explosives, and we didn't have any
oh my God.
permits. And he was ready to pull all of us into jail. And I just sat there. I said, hey, I know there must be a fine for doing this. I just really like just to pay the fine off right now, knowing I'm not a fine, I'm bribing him, right? But you can't say that, right? Because then you're bribing him.
Right.
So, and I saw he looked at me, yeah, there is a fine for this. I said, how much is it? He said, he looked at it, he said, let me see how much money you have. And I pulled out my wallet, and he said, it's exactly 600 pesos. I was really willing to pay 600 pesos to get out of it, because you don't want to be caught in a Mexican jail. So, you have to learn, I learned how to play early on, by the moment. That's what you have to do. And then you have to anticipate what's happening around you. And that is, that is my ability. Some people say, why do some people see UFOs or Bigfoot or weird apparitions and things? And I say, because they're looking. That's why. They're not looking at their feet. They're not walking on the ground looking at their feet. When they're walking, they're looking around, looking up in the sky. Then you'll see it. But if you're not looking up and looking around, then you're not going to see it. And most people don't. I mean, I go out in the woods and everybody's just, looking down, walking up the hill, and you're like, man, you got to look around. There's so much stuff to see. And I remember he was a famous Native American activist, Russell Means. Russell Means was talking to me one time, and we were out in the middle. It was in California, and it was like some kind of festival I was at, a music festival. He was one of the speakers. I was a nobody. And we were talking because I'd always liked him. And I said, "Oh, look at that eagle over there." And we both looked. We saw this beautiful bald eagle flying in a circle. And then he looked at me and he said, "You're an odd white guy." And I said, "What do you mean?" He says, "Well, look around." And we looked, there was like 150 people that were there. And they were all like, waiting for the music to start. I said, "Yeah." And he says, "Well, they're all white." And I said, "Yeah." He goes, "Not one of them noticed that eagle except you." And I said, "Oh, that's really odd. I wonder why they didn't notice it." And he said, "We Native Americans always notice that kind of stuff. So you're an odd person." And I went, "Oh, okay."
That's it.
But it is true. And I have been in groups and noticed stuff that they haven't seen. So, I've seen UFOs and haven't seen Bigfoot, but I intend to.
Yeah. Well, the thing that I want to ask about that, since you are you're an expert at alchemy, is how much of this reality, because we're reality checking, how much of this reality are we creating, and how much is part of the scene? Because Shakespeare said all the world's a stage, and so much of this holographic universe information is saying that we're projecting, our souls projecting into these physical avatars, and then we're projecting our whole karmic lessons or whatever the expansiveness of consciousness wants. How do you see that? How much of this, I mean, people can make rain happen. People can affect the environment, and they do. They do it with their emotions, with their energy fields. How do you see that from an alchemy? I mean, that's where I get really hung up, being whether it's you're using your projection and your grasp of reality, the system in place here, versus what the 3D reality is.
So the 99.99% of the universe is plasma.
Right.
Solids, gas, and liquids make up the little 1%, and then all the rest is plasma, right? And so everything that is plasma. And so when I am a plasma being, I have a plasma field around me.
Right.
And when I am in the world, like I am right now, the world around me is also plasma. And so we're really not that much different from each other, me as opposed to the outside world, or animals, or trees, or invisible things that exist also in the plasma universe. And so when I emanate something, when I emanate an idea or a feeling or whatever, that goes out of me in a wave through the plasma sea, because it's like an ocean. Imagine that we're living in an ocean. And so I put waves out. They go out into the universe. They hit objects and bounce back at me. And so I am affecting the universe around me all the time. And your brain is made out of plasma. Your blood is made out of plasma. Your whole entire being is plasma. And so when your brain has an idea, that goes out like a radio wave into the plasma universe around you. And so you can sculpt reality, because reality is just plasma, and you're plasma. And so you can control the plasma around you, the plasma universe, with your plasma if you want to. If you don't want to, then it won't happen. You just wander through the universe and have the universe treat you like where it wants to treat you at. But if you want to have something to say about your universe, then that's the physical dynamic behind what's going on. All alchemists understand this. It's an electrical universe. Plasma is electricity. Your chi, your prana, which is what is the driving life force within you, is electricity. That's what it is. It's plasma. And alchemy is merely trying to gather up as much plasma from the outside universe into your body as you can to gain two things. One, more perception of the universe, a higher perception level, and two, a longer life, so that you can spend longer time here to learn the lessons so that you can bypass this reality the next time around. And so when you die, your field is, out here about arm's length at most people's is. When you're in the city, it's shrunk down close to the skin. And when you live in the country, it goes way out. Like where I live, it goes way out. My field is huge because I don't have to worry about obstructions because I'm in the country. But when you die, your field will begin shrinking as you're dying. And when it hits skin level, you'll start to feel cold because the plasma field actually does cause warmth around you. So as the plasma field diminishes, you'll start feeling cold. That when you feel that cold, that's a signal that you're about to go. And then the plasma field shrinks down in and it goes right around your spinal column. That's for the final shrinking. And then it goes up your spinal column, out the top of your head, and there's a filament, electrical plasma filament from the larger plasma field that exists around the earth down all the way down to the top of your head. That's why your head is soft when you're a baby. It's a plasma field hasn't finished quite done creating you. All right. So when you die, it goes back up through your whole plasma field, goes up through that filament, which is called a Sushumna in the Hindu religion. And that's the tunnel that you see when you die. That's the Sushumna. You're going up through this it's like millionth the width of a human hair. That's how small it is. Wow. And when you die, you go back up through the plasma filament until you enter into the larger plasma body again. All of your memories are dumped into the larger plasma memory. That's the Akashic records. And there's 7 levels of plasma fields around the earth. Each level is a more complicated spiritual dynamic. The 7th one, way out at the top, is the most complicated, advanced spiritual dynamic of all. When you get past that 7th sphere, you are now free to return back to the source. So you can't return back to source until you've gone through all 7 layers of these plasma dynamics that exist outside of the earth. And this is what dark matter is. They'll look at a star and they will weigh it, and the star is heavier than it should be, and they don't know what to make about it. And so they say, well, there must be like dark matter around that star. Yeah, it's not dark. It's invisible plasma field, and every star and every planet and every person, and every animal and every tree and every plant has a plasma field around it. And we interact with these plasma fields. So when I was at Gaia, we had an animal communicator one time come in, and she was amazing. And she taught us all how to communicate with animals. So I thought, okay. And so I went home, and it was after the shoot, and I was having lunch or something. I can't remember what. And my cat was sitting there on the chair, and she was looking at me. So I did everything that the animal communicator told me to do. I looked at the cat, and I started talking to her in my mind. I brought up some personal issues that we had had in the past, all the things, like pooping on my pillow or whatever. And as I was doing it, clearly I was having some kind of a weird effect on the cat, because the cat got up, arched her back, and then came over and just started doing figure eights, around my feet, right, over and over, and purring so loud I could hear really clear. And I realized that, what I was doing with my plasma brain was conjuring up, direct thoughts at her plasma brain was receiving the plasma. And this is what what do they call that thing in physics where you can take you take a molecule and you take a piece of that molecule and you say in Germany, and then you take the other piece and you take it and you fly it to Hawaii.
Right.
And then you
Entanglement.
Entanglement. Quantum entanglement is that they're still connected by the plasma filament. That's what's going on, right? And you can separate them by hundreds of millions of miles, and they will still be connected together by the plasma filament. So that's what quantum entanglement is. That's what psychic powers are. And once you come to accept all this, it begins having a quantum effect on you, where you're like, sure, of course, and you start like being able to read minds, dare I say, understanding the dynamics of situations, and it makes life a lot easier. So, I'm forever thankful that I spent the 25, 30 years studying alchemy, because it gave me such a coherent view of this reality. And I'm thankful to say that the description that I just gave you is starting to move out into the larger world finally, after a long time of just a few people really understanding it. So I think that's actually become my mission here, is to get this message out to people, because you don't die. You have nothing to be afraid of at all. When the creepazoids come to tell you what to do or to stick something in you or whatever, you just say, hey, screw you. Yeah. Right. And that's a power that's why the powers that be do everything they can to squash religion and spirituality and everything. The last thing they want you to do is understand that you're a mortal being, that you're made out of light, and that you never die, and that you can't be pushed around. And that's one thing they don't like. And I think the side is crumbling. I truly do.
Okay, so I have a question though, because there's multiple timelines going on all at the same time, and different projections of you. So there is no time out of this dimension. And as an alchemist, can you jump dimensions or jump timelines to a more profitable one? Like you guys, you were in Ashland, Oregon, then you come here, then you sell Ashland, then you get Crestone, then you sell Boulder. I mean, you have created like this. It's a masterpiece, actually, watching what you guys do, and that's alchemy to me. That's your thoughts are creative. They create. If you have you have to have a clear, consistent vision. Is what the thing. So could you talk about that? Because I think there's a lot of people that are waking up right now that are in the law of attraction stuff, or they're kind of caught with they're trying to get out of victimization, but they're still in. Can you talk about that?
Well, there are no victims. Clearly that my Korean Zen master used to always say that to me. JJJ, there are no victims. There are no victims. And I would like, well, yeah, there are. What about the little kid down the street didn't have anything to do with the fact that his parents were beating him and all that. I said, this is the law of karma. And I was like, right. And so I began to realize that there are no victims, that even a person born in terrible circumstances can pull themselves out. The problem is they're not being taught reality the right way. They're not being taught how powerful they are. They're being taught, in fact, the opposite, being taught that they're not powerful, that they're victims of everything. And that just turns you into a weak person. And you don't want to be a weak person. Don't ever let anyone make you a victim. And when somebody is claiming to be a victim, be compassionate towards them, but try to make them see that that attitude is a loser attitude. And what we want to do now in our society is we want to acknowledge that there's been a lot of wrongs in the past and that we're working on it. But we also want to accentuate the idea, and this is what irritates me about a lot of the young people today, is instead of accentuating their life on what they should be doing, they're playing the victim. And what you really want to be doing is wake up every day and, ask yourself what I can do today to make my life better, this world better, and, with a positive attitude. And so I'm a great believer in positivism. And I think that also a positive attitude creates a positive future. And so, and a negative attitude creates a negative future. So that's what we have to do now. I was talking to somebody the other day about the cartels, the drug cartels in Mexico. And I said, why doesn't, somebody, Elon Musk or somebody, call a meeting with all the heads of the cartels and say, listen, you've got the United States on your border. You have a incredible country for creating growth, economic growth, and making everybody happy. All you have to do is just put the guns away and start putting your investments into businesses and trying to bring corporations down to Mexico, making it a nice place for people to work. And you guys you got a great weather. You guys would have a dynamic situation in Mexico if you just, start thinking a little bit differently, And I really think that that's really the solution. And I think we need to put that solution to every problem that we're facing. And, we're facing a lot of problems. I was in Boulder the other day, and I went to Home Depot to buy some stuff for, the hardware store, and everything was tied down. I was trying to grab this flashlight, and I was like, what? And finally I got the clerk. I said, hey, everything on the shelf is tacked down. He goes, oh yeah, the shoplifting is outrageous. So I went, really? Even here in Boulder, where the average income is like $600,000 a year? Like, really? And it goes, yeah. It says it's impossible. And then same store, I asked the clerk, I said, I'd like to get some bare copper wire. I'd like to buy a big roll of it. And he goes, oh, we don't sell that anymore. And I said, why not? He said, do you know how much copper costs right now? And I said, no, I really don't. And he said, everybody's stealing it because it costs so much. And I was like, really? And it was a real eye opener for me, because not only that, but while I was there, I was in a really nice neighborhood. And Sharon was busy, and I decided to take a walk and walked down one of the bike paths in Boulder, and I came across a homeless encampment, and I was shocked. I was really shocked. It was a couple hundred people in tents, and right in the middle of a nice neighborhood with people with very expensive condos looking right down on this homeless encampment, and there was drugs and trash, and it was like, I thought, well, reality's coming home here to Boulder finally.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think it's come, if you go to LA, well, I haven't been to LA in probably 4 or 5 years, but there's whole streets that are where people live. So it's like, in this country, how is that possible that we don't take care of? There shouldn't be any poverty, or any starvation, that we just don't take care of our own. Boulder's working on it, but again, it's a different place, and
Yeah,
it has been out of reality.
we see it's weird because places like San Francisco and Boulder, although they were always very, very liberal, they seem to keep their stuff together until just a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And now, because San Francisco was always a nice place. I mean, we used to go there all the time, and I know there's always homeless and crime and all that. I'm not saying that, but it's like the COVID caused everything to crack open, and
Yes.
and now the liberal cities cannot get it together. Starting to look like the conservative cities can't get it together either. So We even have the problems down here in southern Colorado of a lot of homeless now that we used to not have. And it's scary because they live up in the hills and they have fires and,
Yeah.
it's dry and windy and
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah. So, we're we have to change the way we think, and drugs and homelessness and hopelessness and all the things that are going on are easily solvable problems. And oh my God, this country has so much money. It's just no reason in the world that we
That's
should
right.
have any of this.
Well, you said something about us getting back to community, and that's what this whole time period has been so divisive, and that's the archons, if we want to use that word. Supposedly they've been kicked off planet, and it's just their minions are still fumbling around. I don't know if that's true, but that's what I've heard.
Doesn't feel like they got kicked off the planet.
No, they're still here.
Yeah, I think that if I was Trump, I would do something really amazing. I think I would ask Robert Kennedy Jr. to run with me, and then have a Democrat and Republican both running together, and they both piss everybody off. So, um, so I think that we need to start doing some tricks like that, where
Uh, you
where
guys
we
heard it first here, because you got to know Jay, he's a futurist. He does his predictions, even if they're outrageous, they seem to come true. So,
yeah
I mean, and you'll just be shocked. Like, there's times when I've been with you guys when I'm like shocked, and then I process, and it's like, okay. But at first it was and of course I'd never say anything because I have to process it first to even understand. You're so smart that a lot of times I have to just get it first.
yeah, I was telling somebody they're going, um, you liked Trump when he was president, and like some kind of criminal or something. And I said, that's not true. I don't like Trump. I like him as president, but I don't like him.
Right.
And right. And I said, it's not about liking him. It's like, I probably wouldn't like Clint Eastwood, the guy, the movie in the movies, not the guy, but the actor in the
Yeah.
movies. I wouldn't like him, but man, I'd sure like to have him around me when times are tough because I know he'll help me. Right. And that's how I feel about Trump. No, I don't like Trump, but I know that he'll be in the room for me. And I know that he likes America. And so, I'm willing to put up with all that annoying stuff that he does to get. But then again, I don't really like the bosses I've had in my life, but I still worked for them, and I still helped them make money. So it's not about liking. I don't know what that has to do with anything, and so that's another thing. We got to stop ruling our lives with feelings. Feelings come and go. We don't know what the feelings really mean. I mean, how many times have you been in love with someone and it wasn't really love? So
Wow.
I think we need to start having common sense. And I gotta be honest with you, I think cities are over. I don't think I'm looking at it and I'm trying to figure out how cities are going to recover from all of this. And I can't see it. And so I have friends who live in San Francisco and they can't sell their house. No one wants to buy it. They've already dropped the price by 20%.
Wow.
And they can't get out. There's homeless people in their yard. They put red pepper all over their front lawn to keep the homeless people off their lawn. And then they got a ticket for putting the red pepper on their lawn. So I don't know. I think it might be time for people to start thinking about abandoning the city. I don't know where to go.
Well, I read an article about it was I think it was a North Carolina or Georgia real estate broker, And
Going crazy.
he said that he couldn't believe how many people were coming from California, that they could sell their house there and pay cash for something. And
Yeah.
he went to, because every other person he talked to said they were coming from California. And then he started looking at statistics, and 660,000 people left California last year. 660,000 people relocated. So
they're going to Texas, Florida, and North Carolina and South Carolina.
So what about, I want to ask, so reality check, what's the deal with global warming?
There is no
Talk?
global warming.
I know. So what's the advantage to people thinking that there is? Who benefits?
It's a scam by the New World Order to create a worldwide carbon tax so they can have a revenue stream. They'll also control you through that. So you can't buy wood. You can only buy so much wood a year. You can only buy so many food products a year, or you can only buy so much gasoline a year. And you'll have a ration. And when you reach the end of your ration, then you can't use it anymore. And we have to do everything we can to stop this. And the way they're going to do it is through the digital dollar. And I've said this before, and I'll say it again. Stopping the digital dollar is a hill to die on. I really mean that. And if you're going to pick a hill to die on, the digital dollar, stopping the banks from instituting the digital dollar is the final battle. Because if we let that one go through, then you're done. We're all done, because they will be watching every single thing you spend your money on. They will be, if you're spending too much money on heating your house, you're going to be penalized. You're going to, you spend too much money on gasoline, you're going to be penalized. We cannot let this happen. We cannot let them digitally control our lives. If we do, we will be slaves, 100% slaves to the bankers, and they will be in complete and total control. So I'm not doing it. I will go to Bitcoin if I have to, but I'm not going on their digital dollar. I implore all of you to resist it when it comes, and it is coming. And we need to make them know that this is not going to happen, and that we're going to do everything in our power to stop them from doing it. I suggest you all take your money and put it into a credit union, get it out of the banks, because the banks are ruled by regulations that credit unions aren't, and spread it around through different institutions so it's not in one place. And and like I said, we need to draw a line in the sand, and that's the line right there. There's lots of things to fight and die for that aren't worth it, but this actually is worth fighting and dying for, because we can't let these buggers do this to us. We can't. We absolutely can't. We have to have some modicum of freedom in our lives, or it's not worth living. And that's the reason why suicide rates are skyrocketing, because they're doing this. And when they weaponize the dollar against Russia, and then they weaponize the Canadian dollar against those truckers, I knew then that once you weaponize the financial system, you have gone way too far.
Right. So when we're talking about bringing communities back into the picture, are you familiar with the Ringing Cedars books and that whole Anastasia, I think
the Russian book?
Yeah, I used to be in a group that met in Longmont once a month, and you had to have read all of the books, and we would sit and talk about it. And there's a gentleman that I interviewed that actually has those communities where he's growing hemp as part of it.
Yeah.
do you see how do you see that us getting from city life, convenience of going to a grocery store and getting food from all around the world, to going to a community where you eat by the seasons, by what you produce, or you have root cellars, and or you trade barter? How do you see us going? Because that's almost Michael Tellinger has the Ubuntu
Yeah. Ubuntu,
philosophy.
yeah.
How do you see us getting from where we are? And I mean, are we 50 years from that, or 20 years from that, or
Well,
how do
we're
you
in
see
it.
that?
It's the age of Aquarius. The age of Aquarius is going to be the um, decentralization time.
Okay,
The age of Pisces was the age of centralization, and we looked through the last 2,000 years. That's all we saw, with cities and armies being centralized, and everything is super centralized. Universities are centralized, and now we don't need that. We got, we can go to university from our living room, in most cases, and so the great decentralization is coming, and we're in it. I mean, like you said, I'm probably in the first wave of it, but there's going to be many more waves coming. And, you know, you, I have 25 raised bed boxes. I have an entire food forest. Um, I'm growing most of my food at 8,000 feet, also. And I think that's what we're going to have to do. We're going to be hooked together by, we're in our community, we're hooked together by radio. All have radios. And so we're all hooked together. We all have on the same frequency, and we can all talk to each other in the event that the internet and phones and everything go down, which is highly likely if there's, like, say, a solar flare. So, it's not that hard. It's not that hard to. You have to do it, and it's hard work, but everything will be centralized around your small community, and people will be bartering and everything, and we'll have to take care of each other, and we'll have to homeschool each other and our children, and the whole thing, and that's the dynamic that's coming as the system falls apart. And that's what's going on. The system is slowly deteriorating. There's many accidents going on right now. I was talking to a state trooper, said he'd never seen so many weird accidents out on the highways right now, and we know about all the terrible things being done to the food processing plants
right,
and
right.
everything. And I hear the next thing that's going to happen is the theft of our electrical wires for the copper inside. So you can rest assured that starting out in the country, where nobody can see anything, right? Thieves are going to start stealing the wires, and then you're not going to have phones, and you're not going to have.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's going to happen that way, and there's nothing that anyone can do about it. It is part of the age of Aquarius. Any good astrologer will tell you that we're moving into the age of decentralization. It's clearly obvious from the supply chain breaking down and everything that is what's going on. And I say, prepare, acknowledge what's going on, and prepare, because
Well, how much
I
time do
want, I
we
want to,
get?
I want to say one thing here, and I want to
Okay,
be very careful how I say it,
okay,
because it's really important. But I've had it acknowledged from several highly intelligent people that I know, and what I think is the dynamic behind what is really going on the last 3 years with all of the things that have happened is that they're sorting out the high IQ, highly perceptive people from the ones that aren't. And they're trying to create a society of only highly perceptive, high IQ people, and they don't want the dumb ones in the society. And I think that's what's going on.
oh gosh.
Yep. Try
Yeah.
to be as nice about that as I can.
Yeah, I was worried about how the food source is fattening people up. And I just thought of, what are they fattening us up for? Or some of us up for? Uh,
Well, again, highly intelligent, smart people don't get fat.
I know.
So that
Oh, so
everything that
it's
you
easier to figure out who's who. Oh, wow.
now
Um,
you're getting it, and
oh,
and and, and this was the person that told me this was an extremely well-known intellectual who
wow.
is in the know, and they told me
Wow.
this about a week ago. I've been suspecting it, but I never had anybody who's way in the know tell me that that was what was going on, and now I'm like, yep, that
Okay,
makes a
you heard it
lot of
here
sense.
again first. So how much time do we have, do you think? I mean, I'm not sure what I believe about people. I don't want to be a Pollyanna, but I still want to create a better scenario. So what I can do is grow my own food, be loving and kind, share
Yep,
the show. What
yep.
else? Do business. Get as many of the new teachers and leaders out on and make them visible. That's what I do. What else can I do? What else can the viewers do?
Well, I think all that you said is pretty much right. You want to get into a community, and it's not that hard to find. You use the internet to find your community, and like-minded people who will work with you when you're in trouble and when you help them when they're in trouble. And you probably want to get some antibiotics and some things, painkillers, things that you want to keep on your property that you may need or your neighbors may need in an emergency. And, so write down a list of the supplies that you think you're going to need and get them. I'm going to, there's probably going to be, how do I put this delicately? There's probably going to be a lot of garage sales coming here very soon that are going to be probably pretty good garage sales.
Yeah.
So, keep your eye on all of that because you're probably, I'm going to say that I'm pretty sure I'm right about this. There's about to be a great deflation, not inflation, an incredible deflation. And, um, as the boomers, my generation, began to leave the planet, I mean, we are the wealthiest generation in history. And as we begin to leave the planet, we're leaving a lot of toys behind. And that's what I mean by some of the best garage sales you've ever seen. So that's where you can get your supplies is where I would be looking.
I see. Yeah, I noticed my daughter's age, they want IKEA. They don't want the antiques and all the oil paintings I got from my mother and the silver and they don't want any of the good china. It's like, really? Cuz I got those things thinking they were loving memories. Like I look at the china and think of my grandmother, that kind of thing. But they don't have any sentiment to any of those physical things. It's so fascinating.
Yeah, well, we did break with the past, and now I don't know if we'll ever be able to get it back. But I think that dynamic also will change um, as poverty ensues. I think people will be a lot less picky about what they're doing and what they're taking, and I think that we're definitely our years of the United States being a super wealthy country, I think, are behind us. I think it's not only a matter of time before we learn the ugly truth about the way that we've dealt with the outside world, and the outside world knows what we've done to it, and they're not really very happy with us. So,
Right.
you know,
So
once they,
so how much time do we have? That's it. I keep asking you that, and I don't know that you have the crystal ball, but I
I
mean,
would, I would say, not much.
do we have to 2030?
No,
No. Oh, okay. Anytime
I
now, huh?
would say, well, I don't know if Cliff would like me to say that, but I did get an email from Cliff High about 8 days ago, and he said, better get everything in order within the next 2 weeks. So he's been
Wow.
kind of right. He also told me to buy enough shoes to last for 5 years. I was like, huh, I wonder what that meant.
Wow.
But you want to know something? I think I am going to go out and buy enough shoes for 5 years just because he said it. And, but he's been uncannily right. So he and I are in email contact all the time. And I have to tell you, he has been like at 95% for the
Wow.
last 3 years. He predicted everything, and I was like, whoa, I better start listening. After he was right like the first 15 times, I decided I'd start listening. And so
Wow.
now, I do listen. And so he's saying like within a week. And what's interesting is he's not alone on that. I have a bunch of financial advisors who also are telling me that they're expecting something imminent here happening. I don't know what. I don't know what they're seeing. I'm not really a financial person,
Right.
so I don't know. But there is kind of a weird unease
Right.
going around right now that I've never seen before. But people should know, and I'm going to say this, and then I probably should go. But I'm in contact with a lot of people, and I can tell you right now, there is a lot of things being discovered on many different fronts, all at the same time. And they're all really, really hopeful. And each of them has the power to change the way that we think about ourselves, our past, and our future. And I'm telling you, there's like 15 or 20 of these that are being worked out right now, and it's really exciting.
Yes, that's what I'm hopeful that we'll figure it out, and that there's the new teachers, the truth tellers, the new leadership, the
Yep,
new heroes. That's what I've been doing for 23 years, is working to try to illuminate and launch as many of them as possible,
yep,
because that's what we need. We need new guidance out of the quagmire, especially the people that have been in the programs of religions, and some of those programs where the COVID did slow down their access to the church and to that. So it did start the process, but there's a lot of people who'd be very disoriented once they see the programs that have been in place, and aren't going to know what to believe, because they
that's right.
believe, yeah.
What we're about to see is the normies are going to wake up, and they're not going to be very happy.
Right.
And we have to help them because they're going to be very, very upset. And there's going to be a lot of mental issues that occur when they realize that their entire paradigm is not just wrong, but actually dangerous. And that's going to happen. And it's happening right now.
Right.
And,
Right. I think
just,
that's the uneasiness. You're starting to feel the anticipation of that. That's what, but it's been very interesting. There's been so many people. I'm a volunteer for the IONS group, and it was interesting that you talked about your near death experience, because a lot of those people that aren't fearful of death are really capable of functioning. It's
that's right.
it's that first wave of people that, oh no, I'm going to die without this, or I'm going to hell without this. All of that, because the conditioning is so generational, that we're really going to need to help and show them a different way of being liberated, actually, because they've never been liberated. They've never been free.
No, this process is probably going to take a couple of years to work out, though. So we just have to learn to live with it. As the normies wake up, we got to get ready for all the mental issues that are going to occur when that happens.
Yeah.
And some cases we need to hold their hand, in other cases we need to duck and run because you know.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I believe that we are very powered. We're much more powerful than we think we are,
Yep.
and this is hopefully enough people will share this. Please, you guys, please, please, please share this out, because this is a wake up call, and there are lots of resources to help us. There's trailblazers that have communities that know the agricultural, get back to the land and the beauty of being in alignment with the land, and can lead us to this new era, which is going to be peaceful. We're going to be telepathic. We're going to be loving and caring, and we have to get out of this war, egocentric lifestyles that we've created over the eons, to create this new earth. So thank you, Jay. Thank you. I want to make sure I've been putting in the banner and in the comments about Reality Check. Could you just share how people find you on Reality Check, and or any other way you'd like them to find you?
Yeah, I am kicked off YouTube for the next week. I had my
Oh
first
no.
strike. Yeah, I got my first strike the other day.
Oh no.
It was a great show though. Catcher in the Rye, John Lennon, and Mind Control. But I'm going to put it back up as soon as I'm out of jail, which will be in about 5 days. And but yeah, I'm just doing what we're doing here, exploring reality and trying to bring concepts like I've been bringing here to a larger audience, so that we can work together to create a more dynamic future that's more oriented towards positive, anti-war, and a community.
Perfect, perfect. Well, you're welcome to come back here anytime you get kicked off YouTube, and also you might want to back up your site, your YouTube site on Odyssey. I don't know if you already have done that, but every show I do on YouTube is automatically backed up there.
If there's anybody out there who wants to help me do all that, I could.
Yeah, I'll be glad to. I'll be glad to help you do that. I don't know if I can help you do everything else, but
I am looking for someone to help me with my show. So if there's anybody out there.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Well, thank you so much. Thank you.
Right.
And please, you guys, please share this. We really, really, really want you to be empowered. Thank you. Bye-bye.